we go. All right, everyone. This is Lindsay Wood, the Tiny Home Lady, and we are super excited to be hosting this webinar, the Go Tiny Showcase webinar, focusing on some really awesome people in the industry. We're looking at both builders as well as suppliers that are providing services and products to this industry that is in major growth mode. I am so excited to be sharing this stage here with my husband, Eric Wood, the Tiny Freedom Guy. And then we also have Matthew Waldron here from Foxie Tiny Homes based out of Utah. And then Russ just left the seat. Oh, there he is. Russ Eisenberg from Gold Heat, Radiant Floor Heating. And what's really cool in the presentation that Matthew's going to do is you're going to be able to see some of that in action, or at least what we're going to show on screen. So as we are letting people come in, I know it's only 2 minutes over the top of the hour. This is being recorded, so I will be able to send out the recording. And Russ needs to head off. So I'm going to actually give you the stage, Russ, so we can have you share all the great stuff about Radiant Floor Heating. Oh, but before you do that, I want to put in a big plug for Radiant Floor Heating from someone that does not have it in her tiny home, did not know about it, only knew of the hydronic water stuff, and wishes greatly that I had put it in my tiny home because we experienced the mini split about, 10 feet high in the ceiling. And Eric sits right below it, very cold when it's cold temperatures. So the more and more I learned about electric radiant floor heating, without a doubt, it's going in the next tiny home. So without further ado, Russ, thank you so much for sharing with us more about Gold Heat and the Black Gold product for tiny homes. And you're muted.
Of course, I tried to follow Matthew and mute to be polite, and then of course I forget. Right.
There we go. I just made you a co-host. You can share your screen, and I'll make you a co-host, Matt. Actually, I'm going to share my screen for Mike.
All right. Go ahead and share here. And I mean, we've got a small group today, so I mean, it would be great to hear from admin and Melissa, kind of where you're at in your tiny home journey, so that we can speak more specifically to your needs and where you're at.
Yeah, sure. I'm originally from a small town outside of Philadelphia, and I have been exploring homes there, and the home prices have like quadrupled. So, and it's really just, I wanted a place to stay when I go home to visit friends and family for like 2 weeks at a time, have a workspace. I work from home and I can work from anywhere. And so I actually have somebody who is interested in selling me a part of their property. And I've just been looking at tiny homes and floor plans and financing and all kinds of fun stuff. So now that I feel like I might have some land to kind of put something on, it's gotten a little more serious in my journey.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Admin, would you like to share a little bit? All right, well, we can just jump in here. Are we seeing the screen properly? Or yes. Do we have multiple blocks?
Good.
No? All right,
See multiple.
You see multiple?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you're right.
Why am I never going to get this right?
You're going to get it. There you go. You got it.
Well, now I'm on the whole regular thing.
At the very bottom, next to that little slider, is a center. Right next. Yep, right there. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I get this little sign.
Oh, you get the note thing.
Right? I don't know. Someday I'll figure this out. We're going to run with this time. And every time it'll be a little different. And, why not? Right?
Keep us on our warm toes, Russ.
Warm toes. Warm toes. So anyway, why do we care about, heat at all? And why do we care about electric radiant heat? Gold Heat has been manufacturing electric radiant heat products for about 20 years. We've been focused primarily on the mobile industry. So RVs, luxury motor coaches has been our main go-to, and we've been a market leader there forever. If you were to buy a motor coach, chances are you're going to be walking on a Gold Heat floor. And so obviously there's a natural evolution into the tiny home space where we're looking to create comfort for these spaces that have that same kind of footprint, but different lifestyle choice associated with them. And it's been really common to put mini splits into tiny homes. And mini splits are great, right? Super highly efficient, they can heat and they can cool, wonderful type of product, except you're dealing with blowing hot air or cold air in a small space, right? And so even looking at the smallest of the mini split systems, you're looking at like 12,000 BTU minimum that is going to be enough force for 2 or 3 tiny homes. And so think about all that air kind of kicking through the space, which creates feelings of hot or cold in different areas of that tiny home, right? It's that lack of consistent comfort. And when you start getting into extreme temperatures, right? Tiny home on wheels, it's not always going to be in the same place. You may be in Colorado today, you may be in Florida next week. When you get into those more extreme temperatures, the mini splits may not be as efficient. So we can help provide not only quality heat, but also improve the efficiency and effectiveness of any other heat source that you might have within your space. And we want to do it in a way that just doesn't detract from the living experience, right? We don't want to add more things to your walls. We don't want to add more things to the space that you have to move, step over or around, because keeping that space really open and accessible is hugely valuable, right? Every square foot really, really matters. And so this is kind of like, this is an illustration. It's really funny. I just noticed that the whole slideshow is actually appearing the way it should on my other monitor. I'll get this right someday. But as you can see, forced air is going to push through the space, whether your vents are up high, whether your vents are up low. And as that air moves through the space, it's going to unevenly distribute that heat. However, radiant floor heat is actually underneath, the entire floor. And so rather than blowing air across the space, we are emanating heat directly up from underneath you. And the most important thing to keep warm is you, right? And all of the surfaces that you are near. Have you ever stood in front of a refrigerator or a freezer and open up that freezer and all of a sudden you feel cold, right? I used to teach a building science class, and my first kind of trick question was, does cold exist? And the trick answer to that is no, cold doesn't actually exist, right? Heat exists, it is energy, but cold is simply the absence of heat. And heat moves from areas of high concentration to low concentration. So we are little fireballs typically in our space. And so when we open up that freezer, it's not that the cold is pouring out at us, it's that it is sucking the heat directly out of our body. So it doesn't matter what that air temperature is around us, we feel cold because we're losing heat to a cold area. And that cold area, that effect of one cold surface, whether it be your walls, your floor, your windows, it's called mean radiant room temperature. And so the more you can keep the surfaces around you at a nice even temperature and not sucking heat from your body, the more comfortable you are going to feel regardless of the actual air temperature. It's really kind of, a marvel when you think about how comfort in a space works. And so as we warm the surfaces, as that heat radiates and is absorbed into the surfaces and continues to keep everything warm, we do it in this kind of invisible manner, right? We do it without visually distracting from the space. We do it without, as I said, taking up any space because we're hidden completely under the floor. The only thing that you see is the thermostat, right? This big on the wall in a discrete location, easy peasy. And for most systems, right, for your home thermostat, it's always reading temperature from wherever you put that thermostat, right? If you're thinking about a regular forced air system. So having that thermostat placement becomes so important in a traditional forced air system. The beauty of a radiant system is you're not setting the air temperature, you're setting the floor temperature. So the placement of that thermostat no longer really matters. It's not controlling the temperature from it. There's a wire that runs down into the floor where it's reading temperature. So it really opens up flexibility in design and placement. And then, I don't know, forced air can be nice, but it's noisy, right? And so we're always going to hear that system kick on and kick off. Well, with no moving parts and no air to push, floor heat is completely silent. You don't even know that it's operating. It's just providing that consistent comfort to you day in and day out. And so it's not just about the heat, right? It is about, you know, the quality of that that heat source. And so one, you know, we don't want to kick all the dust up. I have 2 dogs, right, and 2 kids, and so lots of stuff goes into my vents at home. And so, you know, changing those filters out becomes really important, right? Making sure you stay up on that maintenance, making sure we vacuum almost every day so that that dog hair doesn't keep getting kicked up into the air. And the smaller your space, the more turbulent that air and those allergens can become. So by creating that heat without disrupting the air, we create, you know, a healthier indoor air quality. We're not adding moisture to the air, right? This is a nice dry heat that's, you know, essentially sunshine from the floor and totally safe and energy efficient. So how do we do it? Well, we offer 2 different products. I won't get into our flagship Gold Heat product here, which is specifically for underneath tile and stone, but just know that should you ever need to heat underneath tile and stone, we've absolutely got a product for that. But for most tiny homes, we're dealing with resilient flooring. So LVP, LVT, marmoleum, you know, those types of flooring materials. So what you see on your screen or in my hands is our Gold Heat product. If Lindsay, after I stop here, maybe Lindsay will share the Matthew's Instagram post and you can see what a real installation looks like. Yep. But these strips come in 10 or 20 inch wide strips, and then whatever length you need. And the view, oh, she's taken over. Here we go.
There we go.
Yeah, so that's for real, right? I mean, that's what we're actually going to do. You lay these out, right, across the floor, some spray adhesive gets these fixed down, and then you route out for these little bumps where our terminations are. And a couple of things that we do differently than others. So first off, we operate at 15 watts per square foot. The reason that is important, because you'll see companies saying, oh, well, we'll give you super energy efficient 6 watt per system floor, right? We can create heat with much less energy. Well, the reality is that the energy converted to heat per watt is always the same. And so it isn't a matter of them providing more heat with less energy. That unit needs to stay on for a longer period of time to generate the same amount of heat. And so what we're able to do is we cycle on and off faster. Now, if we were a mechanical moving thing, you wouldn't want to do that, right? You know, you don't want to turn your compressor on and off and on and off and on and off. It's called short cycling. It's not good for it. But because we have no moving parts, we're able to just turn on, turn off, turn on, turn off thousands and thousands of times without any kind of problem or degradation of the system. And so by using a 15 watt per square foot system, we can stay on less frequently and give you all the heat you need. What that means is by leaving our system off for longer, when you are in those extreme temperatures, we can actually make the space warmer than a lower wattage system. And so you get a broader range of heating potential out of a system like this. A couple of other little things we do that, unless somebody talks to you about, you'd never think to ask, are these termination blocks. A lot of companies will use things like double stick tape or Velcro adhesive over them to hide the connections. We want to make sure the system never fails. We are used to being in an earthquake on wheels, right? RVs. So we need to make sure that no matter how much rumbling, thumping, bouncing, or chugging along you do, this system is going to work when you need it to. And so we fully encapsulate every termination perfectly at the factory. We also, rather than going straight from the carbon strips to the copper, which would be lower cost, we lay silver between the two. What that does is it prevents corrosion from dissimilar materials. I'm not going to get into the specific science of it, but it lends to a much longer durability, lifetime durability of the product itself. So you can trust when you put it in, that's going to be the last time. It's going to work for you day in, day out until you no longer live within that space.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
So does the flooring go on top of those strips?
Mhm.
And what if there's a malfunction?
Well, pretty much the only way you're going to have a malfunction is if you were to penetrate the floor, right?
Okay.
And the reality is with this particular product, unless you penetrate the bus, you're not going to have a problem. So if you did, say, take a drill and start drilling a bunch of holes or cut a square out of the floor that cut through one of those strips, yeah, you would have to pull an area of floor to repair it. But because nothing's moving, it really is the type of system that goes in and just doesn't fail. And when we get service calls, it is because somebody was redoing a floor and damaged the system, or pulling a tile or something and damaged the floor underneath. But as far as just kind of bumping along day to day, you're just not going to see that happen.
I see.
That's why, Matthew, why did you choose to put radiant floor heating from Gold Heat into your, first build? We're going to hear from Matthew next. But while we're on the radiant heating,
Right. Yeah, I don't want to take away from Russ's presentation, but I will just add this, just little tidbit to further answer your question, Melissa. The black gold is made to go underneath what they call floating floor systems, right? So the advantage is if anything terrible did happen and you needed to repair something, floating floors are a world easier to pull back a few pieces, or even if you had to pull back a whole section of your flooring to do a repair, a lot easier to replace than, say, a traditional wood floor or even an engineered hardwood floor that uses a glue down or a nail down type system. So that from a building standpoint, like a repair standpoint, I feel like that's a plus. And then the other thing I'll add, Russ, is we put this in here, and I'll show you in a minute. I'll show you the floor in here, but you're not going to see the black gold because it's underneath it. But you'll see our flooring here. And I remember when we fired it up, meaning once we flipped the breaker and then we went over and we turned it on, it was like within 45 seconds to about a minute, you're just like, oh, there it is. Like it was there already doing its thing. Super cool. It happened to be kind of a colder week when we installed it. So it actually was really nice to kind of play around with it. And we didn't really leave it on long enough to like heat up all of the other elements in the room. The walls and everything that are connected to the floor are eventually it's radiant, right? It's going to radiate out to every element in the room. But it was exciting to like get immediate results, Anyway, I'll mute myself and let you go again, Russ.
Now, I'm wrapping up, and I think that I actually figured out how to get just the one slide up there. So I'm really proud of myself. This is an evolution, right? Continuous learning and improvement. So anyway, as we talked about, installation, we always recommend working with a builder, especially because there is electrical wiring that has to go on, and these are, full line load systems. So, builder like Matthew can make sure that everything's done to code in the way that it should be. But all in all, the installation is relatively simple. And, we're here, of course, to support our customers and our installers, all the way through the process as needed. We're here in Oregon, so if you need to give us a call, you're not going to be shipped off to some kind of overseas call center. The people that answer the phone here, are within arm's reach of where I'm sitting now. Well, I'm half lying because we have two small buildings on this property, so technically they're in the other building, but I can walk over there in about a minute and a half. So everybody that's putting their hands on your system, the engineers that do layouts and troubleshooting and development are all here, easily accessible and ready to walk you through any part of the process. We talked about the quality and the lack of maintenance, and so if you need a builder referral, well, you've got one here with Matthew. And otherwise, give us a call. We're happy to talk to you about your project or help point you in the right direction. Thank you very much.
And I've loved it. I've been able to send you quite a few people. I just talked to a woman today, made the connection. So there's the buyer, right? It could be you, Melissa. I don't know. What is your time frame for going tiny, Melissa?
I don't know yet. right now, like, I'm researching like financing for these things. I know it's,
Okay.
yeah,
I'll talk
that's,
a little bit about that in my presentation. Yeah.
okay.
I did share the gold heat information in there because as a buyer talking to the builder, now if you went to Matthew, Matthew would already have it standard where he's going to talk next about all those standards that he puts in, go way beyond. But it is the power of the buyer to work with the builder and then to pull in product specialists like Russ. And that is what I'm constantly triangulating because, you know, innovative products, we don't have to talk about, you know, shiplap, and you'll talk about that stuff with builders regularly, but there's other products out there that are so specific to what tiny homes could, you know, or what could be installed in tiny homes to make it even better. So thank you so much, Russ. I hope that works out. You're like 8 minutes away from your go time. And
Right.
thank you for answering questions and for being here. And Go Tiny Showcase will be happening again July 16th and 17th at the People's Tiny House Festival, and both Gold Heat and Foxie Tiny Homes will be featured there. So,
and you know, I mean, we are also, you know, like for instance, Lindsay had somebody that she had connected us with, and so I've got a call tomorrow morning, you know, doing a video call with the builder and their customer, right, to make sure that everybody's questions get answered. So, you know, always happy to do that as well and participate as needed.
I hope I'm making you busy, Russ.
Getting there.
I think every few days I'm sending you an email about someone that wants radiant floor heating. So, yay.
Yay.
Awesome. Well, and now that we've already had Matthew here, I want to introduce Matthew Waldron from Utah. Matthew and I met at the Global Tiny House Conference online. I think we did one of those little cocktail hour scroll things, and then we after, and then it just never stopped. And he connected me with one of my amazing clients this past winter, Tiny Homies, and you were literally in the process of building your home. And without further ado, Matthew's in his tiny home. So take it away, Matthew. And I will share screen at the point where you tell me to.
Oh, sure. Well, okay. So Lindsay asked that I share a little bit about my background first. So my wife, April, and I, she's not here right now, but we started flipping homes quite a few years back, and when the market was still good for flipping. And then we got into client renovations, and, you know, we've both had a love for affordable housing, and she's been doing real estate a really long time. And we've always kind of been watchful of, you know, the different opportunities or different, just different things that people were doing. Anyway, once the market kind of got crazy for purchasing homes worthwhile of flipping, we transitioned over to kind of high-end client renovations, a lot of high-end finishes, and tiny homes. We've kind of wanted to build and do something like that. And so really for the last year and a half, I've been kind of building up to this. I don't want to say that it's a transition, because we're not going to probably totally get rid of our client renovation side of our business, but we're definitely hoping to, you know, lean heavy on tiny homes. I've got this one that I'm sitting in now is kind of a spec home, in the sense that nobody ordered it or asked for anything that we're putting into it. We're just doing it. And then I've got, you know, I've already got three. I've got a 26-foot trailer, a 28-foot trailer, and a 34-foot trailer, all waiting in the wings. And really, I kind of just launched myself on like social media, even though I've been in many conversations and meetings with many people from the industry for the last year and a half. Lindsay, you know, kind of one of the foremost people that I've really kind of just consulted, and we have a good friendship and a good understanding and love for green energy and green building. And we kind of geek out on it together. And at the same time, I think we try to keep each other productive. But anyway, Melissa, I feel like since you're the one showing yourself here, and you're the one looking at financing and things like that, are there any kind of questions you want to kind of put up front, so maybe I can answer them as I go through a short presentation here?
Um, So the thing that I'm struggling with at the moment is, do I try to get financing for the entire project, like the land and the house? Or do I just do the land and then worry about the house separately? What is the best way to kind of do that? Because my tiny home is not going to be on wheels. It's going to be permanent. And so
Yeah.
then we're dealing with like bringing utilities into the
Mhm.
land, and they already
Mhm.
have them at this particular space that I'm looking
Good.
at, which is great. But I don't know like what the best like way to go about doing the financing.
Well, can I interject here but without taking too much
Yes.
time? Could we answer that question in my presentation? Because I am going to specifically address that.
Mhm.
Okay, cool.
And okay, but
That's huge
and
though,
then
Melissa.
the
It's
yeah,
a,
and
said not on wheels is very specific in terms of the type of tiny home that's being built.
Mhm.
mhm,
Yes.
right. And then Matthew,
Yeah.
one of the things like I love about what you're showing us here is I'm very much a Neiman Marcus shopper versus a Target shopper. So I would want my tiny home to be
Wow. Yeah.
super unique and high end.
Aren't they gorgeous?
Well,
Sorry?
yeah. Well, much younger, like any younger of a builder, they might not know what Neiman Marcus is, but I grew up in California, so I remember. Nice. Well, no, that's one of the things. I'll just tell a little bit about how I build, or I should say, some of the options you might have when you go out there to build. Because tiny homes are relatively more expensive per square foot, right, than a traditional build. And where you're building, sounds like you're going to build on foundation. So there will be costs associated with that, but there'll also be a lot of things that kind of help you or ease your path to doing it legally. So there's some trade-offs there, but that price per square foot relative to how small it is, you can do some really high-end finishes without killing yourself, right? Like when you go to build a traditional home, well, for example, here, just for fun. So right behind me, that is a real Italian Venetian plastered wall, accent wall. It's a feature wall. It's just the front end of the tiny home. In a traditional build for a room you'd probably pay finish on your wall. Whereas in a tiny home, it's going to be considerably less, right? Because it's just such a smaller wall, such a smaller space. I'm just using that as an example because it's right here with us. But the same thing goes for your custom carpentry, custom paint finishes. There's just so much more you can pack in, especially like tile. Think about tile. My goodness, right? When April and I are doing a larger home custom renovation, our tile costs, with labor and everything, let's just say a standard shower is going to be between $6,000 and $9,000. Whereas in a tiny home, the shower is just so much smaller and it's a little bit more straightforward for your installer and things like that. So you can pick the more expensive tile, the real stone or things of that nature, Anyway, so that's just a thing to consider as you contemplate how much you want to put into your tiny home. Maybe those kind of dream features that you see in the catalogs you love or in the magazines or whatever, you might be able to consider doing those in a tiny home where you might not consider those in a traditional build. Anyway.
So Matthew, love to hear more about, the thing we do geek out about. And then actually in this post right here, or was it right here? You talk about packing in innovation building science.
Yes.
Only one that's missing on this is Intello. I was actually reposting this, but take us through, as brief. I know building science we could spend hours on.
Yeah.
Really, I think it's a new term. Maybe it's something that's being talked about at the Global Tiny House Conference, but not really showcased or anything outside of that.
Okay. No, absolutely. So speaking of geeking out, Melissa, you get to witness this. Lindsay doesn't know this, but today I threw together really quickly. I'm going to flip my camera here.
Cool.
I think I can flip it. Yeah.
It'd be down below that. Yep, there you go.
Yeah. She doesn't know this, but I built a little model because I wanted to show you the building envelope. So Melissa, when we talk about a building envelope, we're talking about basically everything from the exterior walls all the way to the interior walls, like what's going into that, right? So I just built this little model just to show you. So this would be, it doesn't have siding on it or anything, but just to show you. So there's your external sheeting. We like to use, we like the Huber zip systems. They're very, very waterproof, and they guarantee it for a very long time. It's definitely more robust than, say, your Tyvek, you know, that the paper you see flapping around on houses as you drive by new builds. So we like to use Huber's zip system, and that's this is their flashing tape that goes on all the seams of every sheet of plywood. And then as we come to the interior, obviously this is your 2x4 wall structure, right? And we have mineral wool insulation, or rock wool, some people call it, right? And then just on top of that, typically, like in Utah, we have a code where we're required to put what's called a vapor barrier. Are you familiar with that? Anybody can shake their head. So basically it's just thick mill vinyl. And, you know, Russ is shaking his head because he's a real building science teacher. I'm just a fan. But so we do the Intello vapor. Now it's a smart barrier, and I'm going to grab a piece of it here just to kind of show you a little closer. It's the smart barrier system. It's kind of a one-way system. It'll essentially allows your walls to breathe more, because what happens is as moisture, you know, back east, you said you're near Philadelphia, Melissa. Back east, you're going to have a lot more humid climate than, say, some of these more arid desert mountain climates that we're in. And Russ they got a little bit of water in Oregon, I heard. But so it's going to allow your home to breathe, so that the water has a way, and the moisture has a way to escape and or dry out. Now, one of the really cool building sciences that we could go on forever, and we'll probably do a separate presentation, right?
Yes.
This stuff that I slip right between your tongue and groove and your Intello membrane, this is called an energy blanket. It's made out of phase change material, which is a company based back east and is incredible. It's a passive thermal battery for all intents and purposes. In other words, unlike gold heat, you don't plug this in, but 1/1/2 inch of this material, which is what this is, has the BTU value of 1 foot of concrete. So this material actually is popular in the passive house standards and those types of building applications where they're trying to essentially get away from using any type of climate control systems.
And just to add to that, Matthew, is that it's also been super popularized. I can't believe I've never heard about it being a sustainability geek. Commercial buildings and
yes, commercial,
especially in the recent vaccinations that had to travel across the country at low temperatures.
Right.
I love this.
Right. So anyway, there, I'm just showing off the little thing I put together today, but I can turn my camera back around and we can talk a little bit more. I will say a little bit more about phase change material. Hold on here.
Russ, did you have something to say before?
Yeah, while Matthew's doing that, you know, I was part of a clean tech accelerator program called the Clean Fight in New York, and it was dedicated to the electrification and decarbonization of Manhattan's buildings. And one of the, there were only a few select companies that were included in this. This was before I was with Gold Heat. And one of the companies was a phase change material company, because it is, such cutting edge kind of clean tech. They were using it for roofs and commercial buildings and insulation spaces within, large scale commercial buildings. And there's been a lot of really cool research. So I mean, yeah, hats off to Matthew for really incorporating the latest tech in. And, I think that there's a misconception that when you go tiny, you go cheap, but like that Roxol insulation is literally the exact same insulation that I have in my stick-built home here in Oregon. I mean, I put it in myself. So, I mean, I know it's the brand and everything else. So, I mean, this is exactly how you would build a house, just in some cases, like the phase change, even better.
Yep.
Awesome. Thanks for that plug, Russ. Like, not many people have heard of phase change material, and phase change solutions, I think, is kind of the only gig in town, and they're probably the company that was working with those guys, Russ. But anyway, the way I like to describe it to people is the material itself, that the cost of it has come down considerably as they've switched to an environmental, it's a bio phase change material now. It's actually made from like byproduct of like soy oil production or something. So it's very, very sustainable, very renewable in that sense. And they like to say, well, it's safe enough to eat, but don't do it, because one of our guys ate it and he got a little bit sick. But it is like very, very safe.
It lasts 100 years. It lasts 100 years. So whatever.
And what they can do,
yeah,
just like you would tune something, like tune a frequency to something, they can tune the temperature. So this stuff can operate from like crazy freezing temperatures all the way up to almost the burn point. But the energy blanket that I use, that I just showed you, is it's all tuned to 73.4 degrees, which is like our happy living temperature, right? So it all we'll just call it, it all charges with the ambient energy or environment. It all charges at whatever temperature is coming in, but it only releases at that 73.4. And really what it ends up doing is reducing the short cycles that Russ was talking about in any of your systems. They did a test with basically tiny homes. They were kind of like shed homes down in Tucson, Arizona, very, very hot down there, right? And they built two identical homes, identical insulation and everything. And they just put the phase change material in one of them. They ran them for a year, and there was a reduction of 60% of energy costs in the one unit versus the other. So that gives you an idea of the kind of energy savings. But more than that, I think, is the comfort that it can bring to a home. Sorry, I'll stop with the phase change. I'm geeking out. I need to back up just a little bit and let you know that tiny homes, really, the best practices for tiny homes are kind of becoming more standard than a lot of the just kind of slap it together stuff, because more and more builders are coming out of the woodwork, and they're wanting to build these tiny homes in a way that lasts longer, as long, if not longer, than a traditional built home. And so this is a great time to be looking at going tiny and expecting a quality build.
And I will put in a plug, because you are a premium builder. You saw the pictures from Renovation Girl _ Utah. The quality, the before and afters. I could pretty much geek out on that for a long time. But the fact, and then on top of it, the building science, on top of it, the commitment to quality. Sorry, Matthew, but I have been in this industry for 4 years, and I don't know if everyone knows, but the way we got into it is our builder went out of business in the middle of the build, and we had to fix electrical, plumbing, you name it. So the fact that you even have a house that heats and cools and just your regular, even though it's not even, is amazing, or even drives down the road. Not every builder is as savvy and really dedicated to premium quality and building science. So, and Russ can probably attest to that. There's definitely good builders, and we're all learning. So yes, I do think we need to do a building science webinar specifically for tiny homes. Obviously, Russ with Gold Heat, and the other products I'm going to be working on getting, because you didn't even talk about Lunos.
Oh yeah. Can I just give me 2 minutes here? I'm going to do a quick tour. And for you, Melissa, I'm going to show you some of the high-end finishes we're putting in. So we just finished through paint. So the cabinetry is kind of all over the place right now. We're trying to get it all in, but I'll show you a few things here. Okay, guys, here we go. I'm gonna flip the camera here. So we do have the Lunos system. You can see one of the fans down here. This is an HRV, or a heat recovery ventilation fresh air system. There's one of the fans there. As you come around over here, up here in my loft, we're still building the stairs in right here. So I'm gonna have to use my stool. But up here in my loft, you can see there's the other unit right there in the bottom corner. So you've got an HRV system doing a little push-pull with fresh air, because using the Intello system to build on the interior of the walls makes this an airtight tiny home. And here, sorry, since I'm not a very good videographer, but we have the Zelige tile here, you can see, Melissa. So we've kind of spared no expense in our tile finish to see if we can get better light.
Yeah, that's a good light.
But there's our kitchen backsplash. And stepping into here, this is going to look like a construction zone, because it is, but we have Venetian plaster a Tadillac shower. You can't see it, but it's a tiled shower pan with a tiled niche. And this will all have a separate finish on it, but follow my Instagram and you'll be able to see all that good stuff as it unfolds in the next couple of weeks. And then I'll just take you, I'll take you outside and show you the outside.
Matthew, have you had any issues sourcing supplies?
Sorry, did I just laugh out loud? Yes, every builder is struggling with that. But coming from a background of home flipping and renovations, like April and I because we've had to be scrappy from the beginning. So we've had to be very, very scrappy working with suppliers, but some supply chains have improved. And some of them are still kind of stuck. We thankfully, the real critical things we're able to get. And sometimes we just have to use alternatives, right? So, and sometimes you just got to make it yourself. I have a kiln in my garage. If I have to make the right tile for myself, I'll make my own tile. I actually really enjoy making tile. But anyway, so the answer is yes. I think if you were to look at it from a very numbers standpoint, we did a bid on an A-frame cabin. A year and a half ago, the total lumber materials cost was about $94,000. And we just got a recent bid, same A-frame, same exact materials. It came in around 160. Yeah, so to give you an idea, really you could say a lot of material costs, depending where you are in the country, have gone up 40 to 60%. And then of course, labor has gone up. I'd say it's fair to say around 20 to 40% labor has gone up. So you got to be scrappy, and you got to be choosy. And at the same time, what's going on with this market as far as being able to purchase a new home. And a tiny home is a great option because even though it might be really expensive per square foot, if it can meet your needs and you can be happy in it, I think you get so much more for your money. You pay half as much as you would for a traditional townhome or condo or something, and you have the freedom and the fun that comes with a tiny house. That's probably a good place for me to stop and let you do your thing, Lindsay.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Matthew. Appreciate it.
Could I just chime in real quick? Melissa, I think that the trick to dealing with supply chain issues, I've been dealing with them myself for the past 3 years, right? Or 2, whatever. It is decide what's a deal breaker, right? If there is a tile that you absolutely must have, or an accent piece or whatever that you absolutely must have and don't want to live without, figure out how to work with your builder to figure out how to bring that in as early in the project as possible and store it so that there's not a problem. And then the rest of it, if you're working with a reputable dealer that knows his knows their suppliers and kind of has their finger on the pulse, then the rest of the stuff, you can get, and it's not going to hold up the build. And Matthew would be able to say, oh yeah, we can't get, this particular finish, maybe we need to swap something out. But if you, make those I can't live without commitments and pay for them, buy them, get them on site early, to try to alleviate those problems. That would be my recommendation.
Yay. Well, great. Thank you. And Melissa, just to speak specifically to your situation, if in terms of financing, the question you had, if you were to get the home on wheels, there is a finance company that provides the land and the tiny home financing together, and that's 21st Mortgage. However, it's on wheels. Now, or sorry, let's think about these three, ANSI, IRC, and HUD. I'm just going to flash up. I'm all about flexing and shifting here. I'm going to flash up one screen just to share my screen for a moment. Now, wherever Matthew's in the process with IRC and all that, Matthew and I have been talking about this stuff for a while, but this is what's really important. And I pretty much shared this. If you came to our booth, it might have been there. I'm not sure what day did you come to our booth in Colorado or no?
I did. I was there on Sunday.
Okay, I definitely had this up, but there's so much going on. So really there's 4 types of tiny homes. These are the homes that are all built in the factory. Now, the reality of factory, we've got, the stigmas associated with manufactured homes, formerly called mobile homes. They were built really thin walls, all that kind of stuff. They don't really wear and tear over the decades and decades that they've been around, but that's all changed, especially with the market of tiny homes. What you just saw with what Matthew was showing, and the word factory could literally be outdoors as well. They're not requiring you to have a big warehouse over. However, most builders that live in climates that they don't want to deal with, they have a warehouse. So with movable tiny homes, that's what we normally see. That's what Matthew's building right now. But he's building to the RV park model standard. That is up to 400 square feet on wheels. See, there's the wheels. However, that standard is for temporary living only, even though these park models have been seen in parks all over the country for decades and decades, right? And they're built now with 2x4, 2x6 construction. It really depends on the builder of the quality that you're going to get. And then there's the one below the line, and that is the IRC, built to International Residential Code, also known as State Building Code. So if this was in Colorado, built in Colorado Code, Utah, and where are you landing this home? Is it in Colorado?
In Pennsylvania.
Oh, in Pennsylvania. Okay. And then did you know, were they talking about IRC or what kind of standard it's requiring?
No, I don't know that. No.
That would be super important, but I have a really strong feeling because we at the Tiny Home Industry Association, I'm going to showcase them in a moment, really, we're the ones getting all this stuff legalized around the country. So if something happened in Pennsylvania that involved wheels of any kind to live in permanently, we would probably be the one, evolving that legislation, talking to elected officials. And if it gets passed, it's going to get blasted out because we are the organization that geeks out about legalizing tiny homes. So most likely it's going to be the last 2. IRC, built to State Building Code, and that would be your Pennsylvania. Then the last one is HUD, and that is a national standard. Now, what's interesting is a lot of tiny home builders can build to the HUD code, and now they can be more national. So you could work with someone like Matthew if he was getting HUD certification and provide you a home in, obviously, Pennsylvania. That would definitely involve a lot of transportation costs, but sometimes there's some people you just can't find the quality level of you're going to do. I've heard of people sending from Florida up to Vermont, from Texas to San Diego, from Oregon out to Colorado, all because of the type of builder you're working with and the person that can get you the home that you'd like. Have you identified any out in the East Coast that meet your needs?
I found one company that does, and they're like right in the next town over.
Okay.
That does container homes.
Okay. Then the big question is, what are you building your home to? And I can't tell you how many times I've been the one that actually educates. Matthew and I connected early on when he was like, hey, I know how to renovate homes. Like, you saw the pictures.
Yeah.
But when it comes to tiny homes, a really great start is really building to the ANSI. But where the industry is going, and I'm sitting in Colorado where there's been tons of festivals of tiny homes for years now. And yet there's only one city in the state of Colorado that allows a movable tiny home in the backyard, and that's the cute little town of Lyons. You can put them in RV parks and mobile home parks, but not your permanent on foundation type of things, right? They're going to be more your IRC and your HUD. So hopefully that helps, because you're going to be empowered now to make sure, even if they build a container home, that's totally fine, but then make sure that they're building to either the Pennsylvania code, state building code, which I'm not sure. I do have a link. Oh, I do have a link of all the building codes or states and what building code they build to. I'd have to get that to you directly.
Okay.
A little bit for me to find. So hopefully that helps you a little bit. And the cool thing, if you're doing IRC, that's as if you were building from scratch on the ground up. So what that means is that you would then be able to go and apply for your regular mortgages, home equity line of credit, whatever, for home buyers, you name it.
Okay.
But the other thing that is always kind of the like shoe that drops, if you're getting, is it an accessory dwelling unit to a regular single family?
No, it's
Standalone.
just standalone.
On land. Okay. Then the very important thing you want to know and ask is, what is the minimum size requirement for that regular like piece of land?
Okay.
For example, I
Size
I
requirement.
talked to like 4 realtors here in Colorado, and I was literally like Velcro to them. I'm like, don't leave the booth, because they were expecting to land, which everyone was asking. I had hundreds of people, I need land. And one of the counties here was like their minimum size square foot was 430. What's interesting, just to go back to this little screen, notice, where'd it go? RV park model only goes up to 400 square feet. So their building code would have already kicked them out.
Right.
The RV park model. You have to go to the IRC or the HUD just because of the nature. Now, the cool thing is HUD can go as low as 320 square feet, but your traditional manufactured home builders, if you go to their website, you will probably find minimum like 700-800 square feet. You're not going to find the homes in the smaller. So it's a little bit of triangulation, and it starts with the land and where who you will get your home built by, and how you will get it financed is dictated by the land that you're placing your tiny home on. So the more, are you working with a realtor or anyone?
Yeah.
There you go. And they may or may not know all the details. Your jurisdiction that you're going to go and apply for the permit for the home, they're going to be the ones that let you know. And it's better to know this before you go searching for a builder. And, Matthew, if you know of any HUD builders over in the East Coast or in the Midwest, like I know of them in California, but that is a long journey for you to go. I do have one in Virginia, and I don't know where they're at with their HUD certification, because a lot of them are getting like, oh, we need to move into this, because it really is a loophole around this. I want a tiny home. It can arrive on wheels, right? It's built in a factory, arrives on wheels, placed on ground. And if you get a small enough home, you don't have to set a big home, which also contributes to a big cost.
I think that jurisdiction thing you mentioned is really important here. Do you know if you're on county or in a specific municipality?
Yes.
The land? Is it in county land or is it a city?
It's township.
It's a township. So because it's on foundation and it's Pennsylvania, they're definitely building to an IRC standard, whether that's the 2015 or the 2018 or the 2021 code. They're going to be pretty similar, but really it's going to come down to the zoning then, and you're going to have to make nice with your city planners and stuff to figure out what that minimum square footage is, just like Lindsay was mentioning.
Oh my God, I just found the link. Okay, so here we go. Tiny URL, building codes by state. I would start with that one just to here, we'll share screen, do a little deep dive on this. This is the stuff that people don't teach about. I love it. Okay. So Pennsylvania, boom. There it is. 2015. So we answered the question within a minute, less than a minute of him saying it. Okay, so that would be your indication that yes, they're building to international building code. Is IRC or IBC? Can anyone? Oh, IRC. What? Oh, building code, residential code. Oh, building code. Is that commercial? IBC? Matthew, do you know?
I've seen them used interchangeably.
Okay, because well, and then there's the IRC, International Residential Code. So maybe IBC is more yeah, building residential. Anyway, that is what they're looking at versus the 2018. So Lisa,
I was doing some research. I was doing some research on Puerto Rico specifically, and they used the IRC and IBC interchangeably.
Okay.
As far as just referencing what code they build to. But anyway.
Yeah. So then you would talk with that township and say, hey, I'm looking for a builder that's going to do this. What is my minimum house size? That is going to give you a lot of indication of who you're going to work with. House size and IRC or HUD. There you go. I can give some great HUD homes out of Texas, Wisconsin, really good luxury home builder that is HUD certified. You know, I wish Matthew was getting that right away, but that takes time. Not all builders are going to jump right into that because that takes a lot more inspection at your factory, a whole bunch more certification level. All right. So what I'm going to do now is introduce my husband, Eric Wood. We are going to shift gears. You're going to jump over here, Eric?
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to share
I'll
screen.
leave a little blank screen over there.
Like get cozy here in our cute little tiny home.
Our tiny
our
home.
Camper. Okay, let me scoot over to this.
Uh-huh.
All right, and share screen. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to start this off because this is where I'm super passionate about. For anyone out there, living tiny, going tiny, building tiny, providing to tiny, is tiny freedom. So many people choose to go tiny because of financial freedom. That is the number one at the top. In addition to that, simplicity, portability, travel, sustainability. You know, usually in a crowd that I'm answering questions, like there's always some answer in this department, but number one is some type of financial freedom. And I'm going to loop in homeownership. Melissa, which one out of these four were your like go-to reasons?
Simplicity.
Okay, great. But the benefit of, are you also looking for home ownership? It sounds like buying land, having the home.
Yeah, I mean, I already have my, primary residence here in Colorado.
Great.
So this is just basically a place that I can go home to my hometown and visit friends and be able to stay for a longer period than having to like stay with a friend or be in a hotel.
That's perfect. Actually, the reason why we got into tiny homes, my parents live in Tucson half the year and Ukiah half the year, leaving a perfectly good home vacant for half the year. And in that true nomadic lifestyle, we nomad life in summer and then we live in that cute, comfy home in the winter. Just happened to fit and work out that way because Arizona's too hot in the summer.
In the summer.
Okay, so moving right on. You know, current state of housing and why we're where we're at. There's one affordable listing every 65 households earning 75,000 to 100K. Not enough housing being built. Interest rates and inflation are rising. Housing prices in the 70s were only 2 times wages. Now they're 6 to 8 times wages. So now you've got someone that's doing the, being a barista or a firefighter or a teacher or a lot of these wonderful careers. They just cannot afford to live in the area, even the areas that they grew up in. In addition to that, the family sizes are shrinking. Millennials don't want to spend as much on a big home. Boomers are wanting to downsize, and it's more and more quality time living than cleaning. Here's a little picture of what it used to be in the 50s, 4 people to 1,000 square feet. Now it's only 2 people to 2,000 square feet. So we've got a lot of, differentiation going on in the industry.
My husband and I live in 7,000 square feet.
Okay, there you go. All right. In Colorado?
Yes, it's so large because we have an indoor pool.
Oh Oh my goodness, that's amazing. So what we really wanted to evolve is really financial freedom. Opened up, the tiny home is only one part of that. And we dug a little bit deeper and realized there's just a very big lack of financial literacy in this country as to what to do for retirement. Only if unless you're wealthy, you can walk into some of the brokerages that will work with you with $500,000. So Eric, being a caterer and not having a lot of opportunity in the COVID years, decided to tap into something of his past passion.
Yeah.
And that's your financial undergrad. So
Yeah.
I hand it over to Eric.
Thank you. Yeah. So I teach financial freedom and how we can become independently wealthy and basically learn to live on our passive income so that our expenses are all paid without actually having to work. And you can work if you want to, but if you don't have to, you can opt to do that. And one of the things that's happening, we get all sorts of financial information today, and here's a demonstration of just some of the sources. Your families could give you information that may be correct for you, or maybe lunacy. Friends, same. The internet, you can get all sorts of advice off the internet that doesn't really apply to you. The banks are into loans. That's what they do. They borrow money as little as they can, and they charge as much as they need. And then the big brokerages, generally, if you don't have $500,000 in liquid assets, they don't even want to talk to you. And so we talk to everybody in our group. And is that right?
Yep.
And we teach building a solid financial foundation, similar to a house, I guess. Similar to a house. There's, in this example, here's a husband and wife maintaining one or two jobs or small businesses while paying rent or mortgage, an auto loan or two, all the while trying to save for retirement and planning for their kids' college. And it's a mess. And, if what happens typically, if one of the spouses loses their ability to maintain income, all the work comes on to the other spouse and vice versa. So what we teach is building a solid financial foundation, and that begins with proper protection. And that, in short, is a will and a trust, so that you avoid probate and you pay the least amount of taxes over a lifetime. We also talk about debt elimination, and we talk about raising your short-term savings, doing both of those at the same time mathematically, so that you eliminate your debt, raise your short-term savings, so that if you do hit a bump in the road, you can borrow from yourself, and instead of borrowing from your credit cards. Short-term savings generally means 3 to 6 months of living expenses set aside just for that purpose in a very liquid method. And then finally, long-term savings, which is our favorite subject. So we teach about compound interest. We always respect compound interest. So in this example, two siblings save for 40 years, one saves for 38 years. In this example, they're saving at $5,000 a year in an account growing at 10%. Now we know 10% is a pretty high number, but we use that as just for illustration purposes. So that sibling, waiting 2 years, they save $10,000, but it costs them $400,000 on the back end. So the power of compound interest to that our little habits become major changes in our life. And then finally, we talk about the 3 buckets of savings. The taxable income, that's your savings accounts, your CDs, your mutual funds, even your crypto, and it's taxable. That's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And then finally, secondary tax deferred. That's the model where you save taxes this year, but you pay it later. But we're just curious. We don't have a crystal ball on what the U.S. government's going to do, but the probability is taxes are going to go up. It just looks like the way it's looking. And so we're wondering why people are so keen on saving money now when taxes are low, only to pay them later when they're more. And then if you don't know what taxes are going to be and you don't know what inflation's going to be, how can you plan your lifestyle? It doesn't make a lot of sense. And so tax advantage is the one we focus on, and that's the pay now and then live tax free on your income. So that's only two ways to do that. One is the Roth IRA, and the second is cash accumulation in life insurance. And so I'd love to talk to anybody and everybody about that. If you know of somebody who would like some advice, who would like some education about this,
sorry.
I'm open. Then we can talk to Lindsay and she can get contact with
I did
me.
a quick thing about credit score for anyone that's looking for home loan. Just as this is recording, I wanted to bring this back in. Just an example of lower credit score versus higher credit score and their monthly payments over 20 years, and taking just that $775 for a low credit score versus $716 on a $100,000 loan. Total paid, there's the number, 186 for the lower, 172 for the higher, a difference of 14,000. Now, if you take that $59 differential, $708 a year, put it into a 7% account for 20 years, now you're looking at $30,000 that you've been able to save while you're also making the payments on your tiny home. So many people are interested in this, but we've got to make sure that when they go into these higher, I would say they're secured loans, but they're really close to more of an unsecured loan. So they're higher interest rate. There are some longer term ones, but it's super important. I love to bring together this desire for financial freedom with your tiny home, the need for making sure you're doing the best you can with your credit score, and the ability to save for the future. So with that, this is the final thing you want to share about by people wanting to sign up for financial education webinars.
That's true. Thank you, Lindsay. It's Build Wealth is my financial webinar where we talk about this and more. Some of the slides I showed you were just this little sampler and showed people how to build wealth for a lifetime. And I also teach how to become a financial agency, be your own broker. And that way you can gather and also teach other people how to do it. And if that's something you want to do, and most people, 90% of the people who come to me start part-time, just a few hours a day, actually dedicated, can become really hundreds of thousands of dollars.
We've had a number of people that are interested in the tiny home world, and I realize that a lot of people come from the renter model. There's a whole different subsection, but this is the time of the great resignation. So many people, I don't know if you guys have seen a lot of hiring signs. You know, COVID really shook things up a lot. A lot of people chose not to go back to maybe their career or work from home, or, you know, they got a little slice of life when they, you know, I know COVID was crazy on many levels, but it was what it was, and we got to glean off some of the benefits from it. Some of the benefits actually resulted in people saying, I don't want to do what I did before. I like some of this lifestyle. I'd like to do something different. I'd like to build for my future. And that's really what I think the financial agency is all about. So Thank you, Eric.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All right, everyone. I know as he goes back to his own seat.
Other seat.
Any questions about that? I'm going to put his information in there now that I'm being Tiny Freedom Guy. You can find him on my website. If anyone knows any young people, also, that's super important. So many, you know, anyone older in the 50s or so, I always say, I wish my 20-year-old self took a little better care of my 50-year-old self. Some people did. Some people really on it. But my 50-year-old self has to take care of my 80-year-old self. So for anyone that I know that's like younger than me, I always feel like I look at them and like, listen, it would be really important for you to tap into all of that time that you have right now, that compound interest. You know, I learned it long ago, but I definitely got pulled into other things, other shiny balls. And so I really respect a lot of people that took care of their older selves when they were younger and did it right. All right, everyone. And so the last thing I will share is that I'm going to share my screen here and give a quick shout out to the Tiny Home Industry Association. Oops, sorry for there we go. Nope. All right, wrong screen here. That's why. Okay. I'm Gonna find that right there. So the Tiny Home Industry Association is very much responsible for legalizing tiny homes across the country. This is the website. I will share the information in right here in the link, all about focusing on legalizing tiny homes around the country. A lot of great success in California, Portland, state of Maine. We are working on the state of California. There are some some things happening in the state of Colorado. Just to kind of jump right over to the Facebook page. I actually clicked on some of these links and I had this featuring in the booth. So there's the International Code Council that basically creates the International Residential Code. And they are really focusing on tiny homes being built in compliance with the IRC. This is a game changer because we've had so much resistance to the wheels. It's ridiculous. But I just put that link to this article in there. In addition to that, this is the one about Colorado. And, if there was ever a time, this is the very first law where Colorado, because so many homes have been built, but there haven't been legalization going on, they got tiny homes everywhere, under the radar, you name it. What they're going to be doing is regulating. And I know we don't love always the name regulation, but they're basically looking at IRC and HUD homes, and those have to be inspected. So why not the tiny homes? So this historic law is going to go into effect July 2023 in the state of California. I'm sorry, Colorado, excuse me. State of Colorado. So it's really something to, read up on, to get to know more. And I do have a connection for you, Melissa, for a company that might be a really good resource for your HUD home that Matthew said just before he left, and that's called Everywhere Co. So I will, if you want to pop in the chat, actually, do we have her email?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We have your email. Okay. Yep. I will send you that link as well as a link for the Pennsylvania code that I pulled up that link. And, great to have everyone here. I'll be launching the Go Tiny Academy, which is something that is ideal for people that are just starting out, looking at going tiny. They might be a few years out. They don't know where to park. They don't know where financing. They don't maybe know what builder to go to. And I really take people through the 3 steps to going tiny. And so I'll put my information in there, and just thanking everyone for being here.
Thank you so much for your time and all the information today. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Russ, for driving. Thank you. I'm sorry, not admin. I know your name. I forgot it. For being here. Great to meet you at our booth. Kathleen, thank you. And thank you so much all for joining in. We are considering running these weekly. I'm still figuring that out, but for now, we say thank you from Colorado. Until the next one will be on the 21st of June, and that will be all about after the People's Tiny House Festival. So if you have a moment, Melissa, come on up to the People's in Loveland, Colorado. And that one, I will put the link in this here for anyone watching the replay. And
know if they'll have more tiny homes than the one that just occurred?
I don't know if they'll have more. I couldn't say that. I know there'll be a music festival. There definitely will be tiny homes on there. So there's the People's Tiny House Festival, July 16th and 17th. That link came out really big.
I felt that was like more camper vans and buses.
There will definitely be that at the People's as well. Yep. It really depends. And what I can tell you is what you needed in terms of IRC and the HUD. No one was doing that there because yeah, a lot of those homes are really big homes. They're not going to really bring them in and bring them out.
Yeah.
Get back, maybe the veterans home. And that if no one caught, but that one was being removed by a very large truck, biggest one that come out there. So those can be quite expensive for a lot of builders. They like to try to bring their little tiny homes.
Right.
Yep. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining. Happy to have you all here.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Oh, there's
Bye-bye.
Bye.